Can we start at Foggy Cove?
Absolutely, anywhere you want to start.
Is that a good place to start for you?
It is.
Is that home for you?
Well, let me just give you some of the markers of home. A lonely dune beach, crashing waves, a fox comes out of the marsh with a rabbit in its mouth. My children playing in the sandbox, creating beautiful skyscrapers out of wood and sand. Me in the basement writing. My lovely wife gone for a walk somewhere. In a lot of ways, it is home. I mean, it has all the touch points of home, and we've infused it with the life of the family. So it is very much a home for me in a lot of ways, yeah.
And yet, this is also almost a book about failing to have home.
Well, I think what you're reading in the book is the character that's me in the book. It's the kind of conflict with rushing to a home in the way you think it should be, as opposed to letting it kind of happen. And so in that sense, I think that there is the book isn't so much about a failure of finding home. I think it's just an affirmation of what family and love and home really is, that you can push yourself into a geographic or physical space with the people you love, and if you get too white-knuckled about it and try to force too much on it too soon, maybe you're not going to have the experience that you want. Or maybe part of the experience of finding home is to kind of settle into a place and let certain ghosts come out in you, and eventually you settle down. I think the book affirms the idea that I'm an Acadian. Just by nature, I have multiple identities, and I have a genetic disposition toward rootlessness. So the book was trying to understand a bit of rootlessness. But there's a beautiful scene, to me anyway, at the end of the book, where things happen in the book. My family and I are sort of driving together off into the fog, and we don't know what the next step is. And I think that there's both the mobility of the family together, or the mobility of love and connection, moving off into some fog, I think is, it sounds odd, but I can't think of a better definition of home in a way, because that's really, to me, the condition.
In travel writing, this is a quote from you. In travel writing, sanctuary porn is a time-honored muse in the expression of achingly beautiful thoughts. Tell me about sanctuary porn, because it keeps coming up in the book.
Well, I think I've been upbraided recently by a number of folks who have been offended by the term, because they think I've taken liberties with a pretty solemn and interesting, a solemnly interesting genre of self-exploration. The book where people go on a journey. They go up to the monastery in the sky, or they go to any number of places. They go pilgrimage across the desert. That's one genre of where there's this kind of spiritual awakening associated with the journey. And then there's the more comic version. You have things like the Peter Mayle books, like the Year in Provence, A Month in Provence, A Decade in Provence, 18 Months in Provence, or Under the Tuscan Sun. And I kind of like those books, or slightly more intellectual versions like Witold Rybczynski's Home, But Sanctuary Porn to me was that sort of book where a guy buys land in the country, retreats to country, builds house, hurts hammering nails in, discovers that he's either twice as profound as he thinks he is, or is half as profound as he thinks he is. There's sort of a whole genre of that sort of getting back to nature as a kind of means for enhancing one's sense of self-awareness. So I couldn't help but make fun of these sorts of books. And the ideal book I would make fun of would be Pico Iyer's books, because he's always going off to some monastery in Kyoto where there's a beautiful boat floating off into the lake at night with a little candles and a message to the lover and lute music in the background. And I'm drawn to those books, But at some level, I guess why I call it sanctuary porn is I wonder in our privileged society why we're so obsessed with this notion of that we're deserving of this sanctuary quest. We're a very privileged society. So in a way, I don't think the thing I struggled with in writing this book was. I'm a privileged individual, and yet I'm going off on this conspicuous quest to find myself in some pretty upmarket conditions overall. I got some good food. I got a lovely family. I'm living by the sea. I can get on a plane and come to Toronto. So in a way, I needed to find a moral edge to this book, and one of them is just to kind of, I think in a gentle way, send up the whole sanctuary porn genre just a little bit.
I think it helped deflate some of my own sanctuary fantasies a bit. It's really not all that realistic, and that it is kind of...
Or controlling every variable that goes with it. I felt very much like a failed control freak, which is...
Aren't we all, though?
but the good purpose. I mean, we look at the results of our little journey out there. I mean, I am responsible in a very heavy-handed way of picking up 2 families, 3 generations, and moving them to a place by the sea, where our children can play with the one set of grandparents they have left, and we can be in a kind of, it sounds like an experimental Italian comedy. I mean, like we have 3 generations, 2 households by the sea. But to be able to do that, you need a certain kind of self-delusion, or else if people thought rationally, should we do this? No. So that's the upside of it. The downside is you get out. I mean, there are people who understand that maybe you shouldn't rush things along so rapidly and stuff. But I know what you mean by the pornographic thing. It's just like you want to bleach yourself of. You want to leave a bit of mystery in it. Like what is that really is going to give you that sense of protection? And I think that pornography bleaches, things of its specialness. And if it's just about getting, the 1.5 acres of land, and having the photographs, the Facebook, site with all your kids, by the horses, and if it's really mostly about that, the kind of scenario, then I think that's probably something that I'm glad I'm sort of, I got that shaken around a little, in me a little bit.
The book is Safe Haven, The Possibility of Sanctuary in an Unsafe World. I've been speaking with the author, Larry Gaudet, and Safe Haven, published by Random House of Canada.